All right, so we will start this right up. Okay. Well, welcome to RevUp. This is week 11 of a 12-week program, and we're gonna jump right in. This is actually the 1 week that does kind of work off of the previous week. The previous week we discussed the first steps of getting listings, and today we're talking about now presenting your listing appointment, after setting the listing appointment, presenting to the seller. So if you didn't see week 10 after this meeting, I would encourage you to go back and check it out. And
Sure.
yeah, check it out for yourself. But today we're talking about, okay, now we've got the listing appointment. We're showing up to the listing appointment. How does it go from there? Which I guess is what this slide says right here. So yeah, as I said, this is week 11. Last week is our last, it's the last week of the 12-week program, closing the sale and creating clients for life. That's one of my favorites, so I'm really excited for that one. All right, so the goal of today is talking about the listing appointment, tips for winning sellers and securing the listing, marketing and servicing the listing, and negotiating the sale. As always, we start off with an affirmation. Today's affirmation is, I love the real estate industry and am proud to help people achieve the great American dream of home ownership. Okay, let's jump right into the listing appointment. So again, this is after we've gotten the lead, we've spoken with them, and we've set them up. We've set up the listing appointment. So we're at step 4, the moment of truth. Here it is. Conduct the listing presentation and present marketing and pricing strategies. So at this point, we already have the pre-listing questionnaire. Just to repeat from last week, the pre-listing questionnaire is something you send the seller ahead of time, just getting information about the home, so you're not going in blind, right? You want to know vaguely what is the condition, so that you can look at comps ahead of time and have a rough idea, right? If they say it's completely remodeled, that's going to be really different from if somebody has lived in the home for 20 years and hasn't updated anything. The price could be literally hundreds of thousands of dollars difference. So that's the point of the pre-listing questionnaire. So after that, we've done our research and our preparation. And ideally, we have delivered a pre-listing packet ahead of time. And the reason for that is that way they can come into your listing appointment with questions that they've developed from reading your pre-listing packet. And again, to learn more about the pre-listing packet, I'd watch week 10 where we discuss that in a bit more detail. Okay, so conducting the listing presentation. You want to start by telling them what you're going to tell them, right? Painting a picture of, hey, here's how these work. For you, you've done this multiple times, or if you haven't done it multiple times, eventually you will. This will be, just a step. This will just be a common thing that you do in your business. So to you, it's just going to feel like every other day. To them, this is like, oh my gosh, we're about to make the biggest decision of our life, selling our home. And so set them at ease, tell them what you're going to tell them, give them an outline. Like, here's how this normally goes. I'd love to get a tour of your home, and then I'll give you, then I'll kind of present to you a bit about myself, talk about pricing strategies, and talk about comps and pricing. And then hopefully we'll end by giving you the paperwork, and we'll go from there.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, Alex.
Actually, I'm just going to mute you because there was some sound in the background. Is that okay? Perfect. Okay. No worries at all. Okay. So once you have outlined your presentation, it's time to tour the property. This is the opportunity to connect with the homeowner. As you tour the home, take notes, and really listen to them. Something that I'm always looking for when I'm getting getting a tour is I like to find out what they have done personally, like things that you can tell they're proud of. Sometimes it's their garden. Like they talk about, oh my gosh, wait till you see it in spring. It's absolutely gorgeous. Or they talk about how they built this built-in shelf, and really compliment them. People love to be complimented. That's obvious, but sometimes it's hard. Sometimes, we get so in the moment, we're thinking about pricing. We're looking at like, okay, that's a 3/4 bathroom. And we're not thinking about like, these are people that are really nervous. So just think about like, hear what's important to them and be taking mental notes about that. This says utilize the top favorite features of my home tool. The point of this is these are talking points for both your marketing remarks when you list a property, and for your social media, and for your flyers. And these are things that you're also going to pitch back at the seller for, you know, making them feel like you really understand them and you understand their home and you really appreciate their home. So that's just the top 10 favorite features of my home is just it's a phrase. It's just a tool that you can use just to remember, like, take mental note. What are some of my favorite things? So when we go and sit back down after a tour, I'm going to repeat those back to them. They can feel like, wow, they really get me. As you tour the home, make a mental note of the homeowner's interests, look at pictures on the wall, and find commonalities, right? Everybody, that's obvious. Everybody loves to work with someone who shares things in common with them. They feel kindred spirit with someone like that. So be thinking that way. Follow a system. For example, start in the kitchen, work your way through a dining room, living room, etc. Debatable. I would say follow the seller, right? Let the seller show you everything, but ideally have them show you everything, even the rooms that they're embarrassed by. You got to see it, right? Because they might say, yeah, it's a 4-bedroom home, but one of the 4 bedrooms doesn't have a closet. So technically that's not 4 bedrooms. So that's a conversation you need to have. So try and set them at ease and say, I'm not here to judge or anything, especially if the house is a mess. But just show me everything because I need to know in order to accurately represent you. Okay, so next is presenting marketing strategies. This is, marketing is really about selling yourself. This is the time to be cocky without sounding cocky. And you know, Craig, the owner here, always says, I'm confident, not cocky. And that's really the attitude you have to have, because you're not, you have to go into these appointments really truly believing that you are the best real estate agent for them. You are going to get them the best offers and you're going to market the property better than anybody else. If you don't believe in yourself, it sounds cheesy. Why is your seller going to believe in yourself? And so this is your opportunity to not just show them that, but really tell them about yourself. Okay, so here's a script on how to. So after the tour, here's a script. So I'm just going to literally be reading this. We've talked about this in previous meetings, but scripts are super powerful. Not because you're going to memorize the script and say the script exactly. I've never ever done that, but it's so you can read scripts and it will make you feel more confident when you actually go to say it in your own words, because you'll have talking points. Think of scripts more like bullet points. So it says, John and Jane, I want to begin by thanking you for the opportunity to work with you. I know that you have many choices of real estate professionals, and I don't take that knowledge lightly. In fact, I consider this job an interview. No doubt you are anxious to learn the results of my market research, and I'll get to it right away. If you will indulge me, I would like to take a couple of minutes first to review your hiring criteria along with a review of my qualifications. Would that be okay? And you want them to say, yes, that's great. So at that point, you want them you're asking them to tell you, what are you looking for in a real estate broker? For anyone who was recruited by me, I do the same thing when I'm recruiting real estate agents. I say, what are you looking for in a real estate brokerage? Because I don't want to just talk about things that aren't important to you. I want to talk about things that are important to you. And so it's the same strategy, right? You don't want to talk to them all about how amazing your social media is if they are, 70 years old and don't even know what Facebook is. So, this is really the time that you want to listen and take notes. People appreciate seeing you take notes. But yeah, just tell them like what are you looking for in a real estate broker, and really listen and then respond to it. So follow-up script after that. When I asked you what was important to you in choosing your real estate professional, you said that you want someone who communicates with you on a regular and timely basis. That's something that everyone says. And to you, that means frequent updates on activity, showing, and feedback from the buyers and their agents, correct? You also said you want a professional. And to you, that means someone with polish, experience in the industry, and someone who can speak and write well. Is that correct? Something else you mentioned was getting step-by-step assistance with the paperwork and help throughout the escrow closing phase of the transaction, right? Is there anything else you thought of that is important to you? Those are examples, really common examples of things that people bring up. And you can phrase it differently, right? If you don't have, one of them was you want a professional who's polished, experienced, etc. You can phrase it differently. You want somebody, a professional who is polished and hustles harder than any other broker, right? You know, find a way to take what they say and work it into your skill set. There's every new agent starts somewhere. So just because you're a new agent, you might, if you're at a little bit of a disadvantage, but you can fight through it just by phrasing it a little differently. Experience is overrated. That's the truth. Experience. When I think of experience, I think of those people who've been in the business so long and they're burnt out and they're not hustling. That's one thing that I said all the time when I started in this business. I said, I will out hustle anybody. I may not know all the answers, but I can get it, and I will out hustle everybody.
I'll tell you this. So yes, I don't have a lot of experience in real estate, but I have like 15 plus years in customer service and sales. Do you know what I mean? Like
100%. That's exactly.
I mean, obviously, if you're taking an order for somebody, you're going to reread back to them what it is that they want. You're going to improvise when you see little things, you know, like, do they need this, whatever. Do you know what I mean? I know that real estate might be a little bit different, but I get the concept.
That is spot on. That's exact. I said something very similar because I said as a former Starbucks manager, I have experience in creating systems, and I know I've been with a company like Starbucks that is fantastic at marketing, and our number one thing that we're known for is consistent excellence. And you know, whatever, it's all fluff, but you're taking their, not necessarily objection, but it can be an objection, but you're taking their concern, that what's important to them, and you're you are manipulating yourself into that perfect role. And it's a matter of objection handling. And that's why scripts like these are so important, because even if they don't mention any of those three things, you can see how if they say, well, marketing is really important. Well, you can find a way to say that that's your strength. A lot of people, me raising my hand, I'm not good at marketing. I'm really not. So what I would say if somebody says to me, and I have done this many times, when somebody says to me, marketing is so important to me, I show them our company Facebook page and I say, here's the cool thing. I have a full-time marketing staff who does my marketing for me, because I'm a real estate agent. I'm not good at marketing. I don't even know how to use Canva. That's not my thing, but that's Robin's thing. And it works. I show them the flyers she makes and so on, and they're like, wow, that's awesome. So there are all kinds of ways to handle objections, and we're going to talk about this later, but one of the best ways is to role play, especially before a meeting, but role play with people, right? Have and pre-think out, like, I mean, a lot of us have sold homes, or we've worked with people, or we know people who've sold homes. Talk to them. What was important to you? And then be like, oh, I didn't think about that. That is a good question that someone might ask me. Because the more prepared you are for a hard question, it's not going to be as hard to answer. Okay, if there is, what the last sentence was, is there anything else that you thought of that is important to you? So if there is, make a note of it and make a quick decision. Handle it today at some point in the presentation, or ask them for permission to get back to them on that. One common one with that is, yeah, I'm going to skip that. I like to answer questions in the moment. But if it's a tough question, I feel like people appreciate humility. You know, if somebody asks me a question I don't have the answer to, I don't bullshit it. I tell them, I don't have an answer for that. Let me get back to you. And frankly, that's me being honest with you. And that's one thing I can promise you, I'm going to be honest with you. And honesty right up front, I don't have all the answers. I just know I can get all the answers. And so I've noticed people appreciate that. So next, outline your experience in business and in the industry. If you are new to real estate, emphasize your past work experience and correlate that to real estate, just what we talked about. Owners often make the listing decision based primarily on the relationship they have with the salesperson. Even though you may be new to real estate, you bring your integrity, your educational background, your sense of caring, your enthusiasm, and your overall personality. The sellers buy this before they're aware of what you know about the real estate industry. That's so important. I cannot agree with that more. Every once in a while, I'll get a listing appointment or a buyer's appointment, and they'll be like, how many deals have you done how many deals did you do last year? Or how long have you been in the industry? And that's the first question. And I'll be completely honest with them, but I'll say, but I've said things kind of tongue in cheek right back at them. I say, okay, I'll answer that. But after I answer it, you gotta promise that you're still gonna meet with me. And they're like, this was more early on when I had very little experience, and they would laugh and say, okay, deal, I'll still meet with you. And I said, because I'm not just, it's not because I'm, and then I would say, because I am newer to the industry and I only did 3 deals last year. But now that you've agreed to meet with me, I'm going to give you a lot of reasons beyond that you should hire me. So just a thought there. Outline Realty One Group, both the support and the growth that we've had as a brokerage. This is totally optional. This is something you can use though, especially if you are newer. You know, you can consider, I say this to a lot of new agents, consider selling yourself as a team. You know, I'm Ashley Dix. I'm going to be your real estate broker, but guess who else is on my team? I've got Isaac Schaefer, who's the managing broker, who has over 6 years of experience and, you know, has tons of experience. I have Robin, who does a phenomenal job with marketing. I have Sarah, who's our transaction coordinator, who knows the forms backwards and forwards. And then if I need further help, Craig Tuttle is the owner, and I have his phone number and I can call him too. So that's a tactic you can use, especially, that's a great tactic to use, especially if you feel like you're losing them because of your lack of experience. Every seller is different and has different hot buttons and needs. When you previewed and asked, what are you looking for in an agent? What is important to you in the agent that you hire? You learned of their ideal time frame, what attracted them to the home when they purchased it, etc. Tailor your presentation to specifically address every desire and concern that you learned in that preview appointment, or the preview phone call, or at this moment when they're already, when they've explained their wants and desires. Okay, so we're still on step 4 in the presentation. So pricing and conclusion. So the notes on this one, I don't necessarily agree with everything. When it comes to pricing, every agent's going to do things a little bit differently. So you got to find your model. My pricing strategy is, I go into the meeting the first time. I say, hey, this is a 2-part meeting. I'm going to have this first meeting where I'm going to give you a tour. I'm going to answer any questions you have. I'm going to hear what's important to you, but I have not seen your home up until right now. So I want to set up a follow-up meeting where we discuss pricing, because pricing is one of the most important things, and your agent should do a really good job. And if I were to come up with a price right after seeing your home, it's probably not going to be correct, because now that after I see your home, I'm going to have a much better picture of what we're comparing this to. And there's 2 advantages to that. Number one, everything I just said is true. Like, if you'll know a range probably going into it, you'll know, okay, it's not a flip, and it's also totally inhabitable. So it's between, you know, this and this, but that's not good enough. Sellers aren't looking for, well, it's either 350 or 400. It's like, which is it? That's 50 grand difference. So number one, it's true. I do want to see the home and then go look at comps, knowing what I'm comparing it to. But number 2, this part's awesome. If you are competing against other agents, every other agent is asking for 1 appointment. So they get 1 chance to impress the sellers. I get 2. And normally I try and set up my first appointment before they've met with the other agents. So I get that first impression, and I'm in the back of their mind when they meet with other agents. And then I ask them to meet after they met with the other 2 agents, or 3 agents, if possible, because now I can address anything that's come up after those 2 agents. So just something to think about. So when it is time to begin discussing pricing, show the months of inventory for the particular neighborhood. Really, you want to pull stats. That is one thing you can have in that first conversation, or you can delay all that for the second conversation. But you can pull neighborhood information and come with that at your initial meeting with them. Just say, okay, here's what's happening in your neighborhood. The average days on market is this. These stats are really easy to pull. And if you have questions about doing this on the MLS, I can totally show you anytime. But come with data. Here's what the average sale price is. Now, Mr. Seller or Mrs. Seller, that doesn't mean your home is worth that, or it's only worth that, or it's up to that. That just means, just so you know, this is what the average home is going for in your area. This is the average days on market, et cetera, et cetera. People love data, especially because I actually know this because my parents are selling their home Coeur d'Alene, Idaho right now. And as a consumer there, I'm essentially a consumer because I don't have MLS access. Gosh, it's so hard to get data. Like we have so much information on the MLS because we can look at solds, but the only website I know of that shows you solds is Redfin. They only go back 3 months. So I can't look at, I can't really find comps for my parents. So anyways, that's what you're talking to people who really don't know. They see, oh, the market's hot. They see things on the news, but they don't really know how hot is the market. What does that actually mean? So discussing with them days on market, et cetera, is super, super helpful. Okay, so this kind of talks about days on market right here. Educate the seller on how the time on market will impact the final sales price. If we get showings, so this is a script again, if we get showings right away, I expect about 10 per week. And within 2 weeks, if there aren't any offers, then it means that we are only about 5% off of our asking price. Close, but no cigar. And I would never say that. If we get only a few or no showings, however, that means we are significantly off our asking price. That's common sense, right? So if you're getting a bunch of showings, no offers, it means you're there, you're attractive, they like the pictures, but it's still just a little too high. If you list and you're not getting any showings, you're really high because especially in a seller's market like this, it's not a riddle. Like, I say this to sellers and buyers all the time. Real estate's really, really simple. It's not a huge riddle. Pricing a home, it's not that complicated. It's just a matter of looking at the data. And in this case, after you list a home, the data is what is happening on the showings and what feedback are we getting. So the reason we were talking about this up front is because we're going to talk about price, how important it is to price it right. If you overprice it, this graph is showing you, if you overprice it and you sit on the market, you're going to get less than and I've seen this so many times, you're going to get less than the home is worth. If you start too high, you're not going to get the fair market value when you eventually drop to the fair market value, because by then people are saying, oh, it's been on the market 14 days, there must be something wrong. I've done that as a real estate agent where it's like, yeah, I've seen they've dropped the price $20,000, but man, it's been on the market for a month. What's wrong with it? Maybe nothing was wrong with it. It was just $20,000 overpriced. But now I'm going to go with my buyer and I'm going to say, yeah, this is probably a good deal now at this price, but they've been on the market for a month. So let's offer less. And they'll probably accept it because now they're desperate. So that's kind of the point of this, and having that conversation ahead of time and explaining like how important it is to price it right is just vital. Okay, step 5, asking for the listing. Be patient, ask questions, encourage discussion, include seller in the decision-making process. So I'm gonna skip to the next slide. Yeah, let's just jump right into this. At this point in your meeting with the seller, you are close to your intended conclusion, getting the listing. You have reviewed the seller's motivations, reviewed their ideal time frame. That's really important. We didn't talk about that earlier, but that's obviously like one of the most important things to talk about is like, hey, when do you want to sell? Now that we just left the holidays, this is a good time to talk about good times of year to sell. Obviously, if a seller has to sell and they're moving and they've got a job opportunity and they have to be there at a certain time, then that is what it is. But if you have a flexible seller who's like, I'll pretty much go whenever, and they're going to be ready December 1st, in my opinion, I'd wait until after the holidays. December is a time there are just less buyers looking if they are flexible. So, and having that information for them, they feel like you're really watching out for their best interests, because if you were just a inconsiderate salesperson, you'd say, oh yeah, let's list it right away. Who cares? And get your commission right away. So telling them, hey, let's hold off a little bit. That shows that you really care about them and you want to get them top dollar. Also, this is an easy one. Don't list on big holiday weekends. The Memorial Days and Labor Days and things like that, those are actually, in my opinion, good weekends to list because people are shopping those times. It's, an extra day to shop, and especially if it's good weather, people love that. But the Thanksgivings, the Christmas, big holidays like that, people aren't shopping then. People are out of town, they're with family, they're not shopping for homes. So just think about that. so back to what we've reviewed their concerns, their criteria for choosing a professional. So we've discussed your qualifications and that of your brokerage and your support. We've talked about market supply and what's going on in the market in general. We've talked about how buyers, what buyers look for in a home. That's really, really important, right? We're explaining. One thing I like to do is I like to have the seller think empathetically. Most of the time they're selling and they're also going to be looking at a home. Say to them, what do you look for in a home? And most buyers think the same way, most of them. You know, they're going to say like, oh, well, I like, you know, an open concept. I like, you know, when we're walking through a home, what would be a turnoff? Well, you know, if it smells bad, if there's dishes full in the sink, if the bathroom's disgusting. So let them be the bad guys and use that to talk to them about like what the condition of the property should be. And talking about the seller's neighborhood and in general, the stats in their area. We've presented the market supply, showing them what's on the market currently, what's their competition. Again, that's information you can come to the showing with ahead of time. The list of homes in a similar price range in a broader area, and the closest comparable home to theirs. So now that's more in using my strategy. That's more in the second meeting that we talked about that. And then again, this is my strategy. In that second meeting, now we're getting here. So at this point in your meeting with the sellers, you are close to your intended conclusion, getting the listing. Sorry, give me 1 second. I lost my place. That was like a repeat. Okay. So this is an acronym to help to talk to the seller about. You're saying these are the four things that should be important when listing your home. What's the condition of the home? What is the access of the home? Meaning like how easy is it to access the property? If they have tenants in there, that makes it really difficult. If it's vacant, that makes it really easy. If it's owner occupied, you're using this example to say to the owner, try and make it as available as possible, right? Me, the agent, what are my qualifications, et cetera. And then probably most importantly is the price. What are we going to price it at? We've already talked about why that's so important. So now it's time to ask for the business, and you must ask the sellers. Meaning you must ask. Sellers, like buyers, seldom close themselves, and they are looking for an assertive go-getter agent who will turn over every rock on their behalf. Asking for their business and handling any objections fearlessly demonstrates the very traits they are seeking. So this is a script example. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, in all my years of experience, I have found that selling your home boils down to only 4 things: condition, access, me, the agent, and price. Price is the most important because if it's priced too high, we will not get any offers and we may not get any showings. Access, buyers typically ask us to show them vacant homes first, and homes that are owner occupied or have renters are harder to see, and so it's more comfortable. So let's try and make your home as accessible as possible. Condition, obviously, the condition of your property is important. And lastly, me, the agent, I need to communicate with you in a timely manner. I need to market your property well, and I need to negotiate on your behalf very well. Okay. Closing for the listing, asking for the business. Make a positive, enthusiastic declaration before asking for the business. I love that advice. This is where you want to say something you want to kind of push their hand a little bit. You want to say something like, I'm really excited about helping you get your home sold, right? Now you're going, I've already got the job. You're confident, I've got the job. It's like when I remember, God, when I was like in high school and I took some like class about like getting how to do a knockout interview for a job. And they always said, shake their hand and say, well, I'm really looking forward to working with you. And it's the same thing, right? You just you're confident. You've already got this listing. Okay, and then it says, are you ready to get your home on the market now? So are you ready to get your home on the market? It says now, I wouldn't say that. Are you ready to get your home on the market so we can get you onto your new home soon. Just a really confident line. It's just really, and that's, and man, it's hard to say no to that. It's hard. If someone said that to me, I'd be like, maybe, like, I think so. You're not being pushy. You know, if they like say, no, I'm not ready to do anything right now, to say, oh, that's fine. That's fine. I'm just really excited. So you have a beautiful home, and I felt like we really connected. And so I'm just really excited. But having a confident line like that more often than not will work. If they answer in the affirmative, lucky for you, you brought the listing paperwork in your briefcase or whatever in your purse. And now's an awesome opportunity to pull it out, especially if they're going to list within the next 30 days. Having the listing agreement is contractual, and even though, you know, a seller can get out of the listing agreement, they feel committed at that point. A verbal commitment just does not compare to a written commitment. So if you have the 1A listing agreement, that will set you so far ahead of every other agent who goes there and says, oh man, I hope I get it. You better be ready to get their signature. If they're impressed with you that day and they sign something that day, they're going to cancel their next appointments. And that's what we want. Other paperwork that I like to bring on listing appointments is the Form 1. It's a listing input form. And the reason I like to do it is 5 pages of data. It's a ton of information, like it goes down to where's the water heater located? Is there any leased items? Is there garden space? Are there fruit trees? Like crazy questions that you're going to be like, oh, I don't even remember that. So it's nice if you have it there to be able to go through that with the seller if they're, if they're amicable to that, and especially if they're in a hurry. It shows that you're prepared and you're, Johnny on the spot with the information. And lastly, I like to have the Form 17, the seller disclosure, because that one takes some time. And that's the one form that we can't fill out as brokers. It says at the top, only the seller can fill this out. It's the seller disclosing everything they know. They feel uncomfortable when you give it to them. If they're like, I don't know what half this means, you can sit down with them and help them understand some of the terms. But just be really careful. You can't fill it out for them. They have to fill it out. You can't tell them, oh, just say yes on that or just say no on that. You have to let them answer. But they'll feel more comfortable if you sit down and go through it with them. And it can be time consuming. It's a tedious, ridiculous form. I shouldn't say ridiculous. It's an important form, but gosh, I did it this morning with somebody, and it's a pain. Okay, we're almost done. So yes, okay, I love this one. So handling price objections up front. This is so important. We've already talked about how important it is to price the home correctly, but I like to do this after I've gotten the listing, because if you start talking about bad news when you're trying to, potential bad news, may not even be real, but this is something that after you've gotten the listing paperwork signed, you say, okay, let's talk. We've already discussed the price. We're listing next week at this price, and unless some new comps come up that surprise us, let's talk worst case here. What happens if the home doesn't sell within 10 days or 10 showings? That's a common metric that people use. After 10 showings or 10 days, if you don't have any offers, you drop the price. That's not a perfect formula. That's something that a lot of professionals use, and I think for the most part, it's like a rule of thumb. For the most part, it works, though you may have to change accordingly. But having that conversation ahead of time, you're going to say, after 10 showings or 10 days, if we still don't have any offers, we're overpriced, right? It's a hot market. If we are priced right and 10 people have gone through it or 10 days have passed, we would have offers. And so if we don't, that's the market speaking for itself. And so at that point, let's talk about what that's going to look like. So right now we're going to list it at 360. How do you feel about dropping the price by 5,000 or 10,000 at that time? Okay, the reason this is so important is it's like when someone says, okay, I've got bad news. You're having the conversation ahead of time. It's just, you just feel, you're just setting their expectations. So then when you come to them 10 days from now, they're not like, wait, what? We have to drop the price? We've already had this conversation, and it really works. And especially you're having this last of all after you've already impressed them, they like you. This is just a worst case, and people appreciate that. Okay, negotiating the sale. So let's talk about the listing process. This is all stuff that if you haven't done a listing before, we'll go through at the time. I was just working with one of our agents today who has her first listing. Really happy for her. Shout out to Glenn. So very, very happy for Glenn. But this, there's a whole process for listing a home. So you fill out all the listing paperwork with the seller, or if you're not with the seller, you fill it out ahead of time, you get it, and then you go back to them, you get it all signed. You enter all that listing data and the photographs and upload the supplements to the MLS. So all the process, I'll show you how to do this if you haven't done this. You create a marketing flyer, or you ask Robin to help you with that. Order the installation of the sign, or you can do it yourself. Install a lockbox and confirm that the key works. That's really important. Send an e-flyer to everyone. That's obviously optional, but I like to tell my sellers that when I list a home, I send, I send the listing to everybody in my office and all the agents I know, because I want to spread the word. It's kind of ridiculous, but it's something that they care about, because it's like any agent who's looking for a home or has a buyer looking for a home in that area is going to see it anyways because they have MLS access, but it's just one thing you can use as a value proposition. This is what I do for all my sellers. I also send it to my database too. Anybody who has expressed any interest in buying a home, I send that to all of them, even if it doesn't meet their criteria, just saying, hey, I know, just not sure if you're interested, but I just wanted to send you, this is my new listing that just hit the market. It shows also those buyers that I'm working with that I'm active. Like I'm an active real estate agent. Post a new listing on all applicable social media sites. Enter all other marketing plan items on your calendar and set reminders. What they mean by that is like set reminders to reload the flyers, and set reminders to every other day, every 3 days, maybe every day, repost something new about the home until it is sold. Again, this is stuff that not every agent does, but this is the type of thing that will separate you. Because I want to kind of repeat something I said earlier. This is not necessarily about selling the home. It's like doing an open house. The chances are you're not going to sell the home at the open house, but you're going to impress your seller. And that's what you want. And you're also going to impress the people on social media who see how hard you work for your seller. Because maybe there's other people who are going to be selling next year and they're like, wow, Ashley really works her butt off for her sellers. And that's kind of to your seller, you're saying, yeah, this is like, I'm doing this all for you. But in reality, you are doing it for them. But in reality, the MLS and the price, that's what's going to sell the home. You're doing this for you. This is your resume. This is showing the world why you are the best for them. One thing that didn't say, oh no, it does. It's because it says it on the next slide. That's why I didn't say it. So lockboxes have, the super lockboxes have, keep track of every single person who goes through the home. So this is so important. I've said this statistic and I'm going to butcher it now, but every year the Association of Realtors comes out with data on that they've received from sellers and buyers on what's most important to them. Or what was their biggest complaint in working with an agent. And number one for like the past forever has always been lack of communication. So how can you separate yourself? That is so stinking easy. It doesn't have to do with money. It doesn't have to do with your marketing or anything. Like that's what most people think. It's communication. Just communicate. And so my goal is every day I'm going to send them just a screenshot of the listing activity. It's so stinking easy. I'm just going to show you how easy this is. So you go into Matrix, and this home is pending, but I just want to show you. So this is what a listing of yours looks like. This is a listing, and you click right here, and this shows me every single person that's gone through the home. So especially if it's a really busy one, you got 3, 4, 5 people going through a day, all you want to do is you can either print this and email it to them, or you can even just send it. Just take a quick screenshot and send them that as a text. Hey, we had 3 more showings today, still no communication or still no offers, but I just want to let you know. That, especially if you have a home that's overpriced and they're not in, the seller starts getting anxious and stuff, that is huge. They're going to be like, yeah, I know it's over. I mean, I know we don't have any offers, but Isaac's still working. Like he's really doing his best. So then I do contact every agent. In a super hot market, a super hot listing, I don't. Sometimes, I mean, I had a listing last month where I had, or I guess it was 2 months ago, where I had, I believe, 40 showings in 3 days. And I didn't contact every agent because there were just too many. I posted in the agent remarks, hey, we're reviewing offers sooner rather than later. We have offers well above list price. You know, we had so many offers. It was like, I can't. But especially if you're in a colder market, or if you're dealing with a home that's just hard to sell, you want to be contacting every agent for 2 reasons. First off, you want to ask them, are you going to be writing an offer? And secondly, if they're not going to be writing an offer, or if it's a maybe, what feedback do you have for my sellers? Because that's, you know, if it's something simple, maybe we'll handle it. Maybe every single person says, you know what, the basement carpet just smelled bad. Well, carpet's cheap. Like, so many people don't know this. Carpet's like $4 a square foot installation and material. I mean, so 1,000 square feet, we're talking $4 grand, which is not nothing, but it's also like, well, if handling that would avoid a price drop of $5,000, that's a pretty easy decision. So whatever the case, ask for their feedback, and then asking for their feedback and then taking screenshots of your correspondence with those brokers also shows your seller that you're working your butt off for them. This is saying, you know, ask your sellers to help you out when it comes to things like the flyers. Like, you're not going to be going to the home every single day. So, hey, if there's, you know, if we run out of flyers, let me know and I'll restock it. Oh, my computer froze. That is great. Okay, perfect. We're back. Okay, so offers start arriving, hopefully. So most people know this, but when you get an offer, even if the offer is for $1, you have to send it to your seller. You can't, by your own discretion, say, that's a ridiculous offer, I'm not sending it to my seller. Obviously, the $1 example is ridiculous, but I've had offers before where it's just been like offensively low. Like, we've been on the market for like 2 weeks. And so they think, you know, they can push us, and they offer something like 50 grand below, and it just doesn't even make sense. And it's not even good terms. And man, my gut reaction is like, man, I do not want to have this conversation with my seller, because I'm going to hear it from them, even though it wasn't me, but you have to. And so, you know, it all comes back to objection handling. You're going to email to how I handle it is I email to them and I say, here's an offer. It's a low offer. I'm going to call you. If it's a really bad offer, I'm going to call them right away. I'm going to say, hey, Ashley, so we got an offer, but don't get your hopes up. It's not a great offer. In fact, it's borderline offensive. You know, remind them that you're on their side, right? Be empathetic. So just something to remember, because it's really important. I mean, agents get sued over that all the time, because they're like, I know my seller's never going to accept that. Doesn't matter. It's your seller's choice, not yours. This is saying, consider doing delivering offers in person. Maybe, I don't know. You know your sellers. That's an option. I always do it electronically. Lastly, well, their last note is prepare a net proceeds sheet. I'm going to show you this really quick, because this is such a cool tool. If you guys don't know this, I highly encourage you to fool around with the financial tools here on the MLS. So if you click on that, there are so many great tools here. You got an affordability calculator for when you're working with buyers closing costs, sellers net proceeds, payment calculator, rent versus buy. These are awesome. Seriously, if you have somebody who's like on the fence about buying, use this or use this or use this, and not or. And they love people feel like, you know, it's the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. Like, open the curtain, show them what it looks like. Anyways, that was a tangent. Sellers net proceeds. I love this tool. So you get an offer for 300. You can show them, okay, 300,000. If they didn't disclose you what their first mortgage is, that's fine. You don't have to know that. In fact, you don't want to be pushing and ask for that. If they're not giving you that information, that's fine. So you can just leave it blank, and they can subtract it at the end. But let's say they told you that they owe 140,000. I just want to show you how quick this is. Let's say they're paying 2.75% to each side, or whatever you're offering. FHA and VA have certain costs that are associated with those. So you want to select the type of financing it is. It's kind of dumb they don't have cash. Well, I guess it doesn't matter because cash and conventional won't make a difference as far as the seller is concerned. And then you pick the county because that affects certain fees. This is an estimated escrow fee and an estimated title fee. If you want, you can even go to your title and escrow company and ask them, hey, what is your fee going to be for the seller? Annual property taxes, I encourage you to actually put in the exact amount. You can just look that up really quick. Local excise tax, that's automated for you. And then you can put in anything else. Like let's say the buyer asked for $2,500 in closing costs, and they asked for you to, I don't know, let's say they have a septic and you need to get the septic pump. You know, you can mention that to them. Okay, and now they've got a net proceeds. That is so much more powerful to a seller when you send them that, as opposed to just saying, hey, here's an offer. Now they're trying to do math in their head. If you do this for them, I mean, you saw how long that took. I would have done a little more work getting the exact taxes and stuff, but that took me like 3 minutes. It's so easy. And it's crazy to me that most agents don't do that for their sellers. It's so easy. Last year I did have that one where I had literally 14 offers. I think I didn't do it for every single one, but there were clearly 4 that were like the best. And I did it for all 4. And I just, I submitted all the offers to him. And then I said, hey, here's what, in my opinion, the best 4 offers are, and here's the net proceeds on each one. One last thing that they don't mention here, but what I like to do is I have a multiple offer spreadsheet. There's a lot to get in there, but if you have multiple offers, consider using a spreadsheet, and I'm happy to share the one that Craig and I have designed, but it takes all the main points. Like you got the price, you've got, are they asking for closing costs? What's their financing? Do they have an inspection contingency? If so, how long is their timeline on that? What's their financing timelines, et cetera? All the big hitters, because most offers have like 20 pages, and that's really overwhelming. So if you give them, here's the offers, you have to give them to them, but then say, here's a spreadsheet that tells you all the basics. It's like, I think 11 or 12 categories that I use. Again, it's just something that most of my sellers, when I present that, they're like, oh, that spreadsheet was so amazing. Thank you. Because I did not know what I was looking at. We look at these offers every day, but they don't. Okay. Okay, so generally I suggest that you have, I'm trying to find my mouse. There it is. Okay, I suggest that you have an offer review date in a hot market. So I suggest listing on a Thursday or Friday and reviewing offers on Monday or Tuesday. And the reason for that is you don't want to list a property on Thursday and then accept an offer Thursday night or Friday, because there's a lot of people who are working who didn't get a chance to see it, who maybe would have offered more, but they have to see it on Saturday, right? So the very earliest I would accept is after like 2 days. Ultimately, as always, it's the seller's decision. You can't decide that, but I encourage my seller, like, hold off, be patient. You get these bulldog negotiators who will say, I mean, shoot, I've done this too. They're not bad people. They're just trying to fight for their buyer, but they say, hey, what will it take to accept my offer tonight and not show it anymore? You know, just say, hey, submit your offer. I'll submit it to my buyer, to my seller right away. And if it's an amazing offer, they might accept it. I've encouraged my seller to not accept an offer until at earliest Saturday, and we're looking for Monday. But then they might say something. I've heard this that cracks me up. They say, well, our offer is only through tonight. If you don't accept it tonight, we're gone. And I'm like, sure you are. Okay. Like, you obviously love the home. It's like, no, you're still gonna love the home on Saturday. So just something to think about. Don't fall for that. If someone is going to offer a ridiculous offer, and they're going to be around Saturday, and if they're not, there's still going to be a bunch of other offers. So set up that appointment ahead of time. If we're meeting up Monday, talk to them before you list. Say, hey, let's meet at Monday at 5 p.m. to either discuss offers or discuss why we didn't get offers. But in this case, say, hey, we got a handful of offers. We're still on for Monday at 5 p.m. Right? Win-win solutions. I don't really think so much that way. I mean, I want to think realistically, but my job is to help the seller, right? Get the most they can. But you do want to keep them realistic. And so, if a buyer is asking for closing costs and they're like, I'm not paying their closing costs, we'll explain to them, okay, well, it's not a personal thing. The buyer is offering you more, but they need you to pay their closing costs, which essentially allows the buyer to have the closing costs put into the purchase price. And so maybe the buyer is just in a position where they can't. So explain that if a seller's pushing back on some terms, explain as a buyer's agent as well why they're doing it, so that they can be more empathetic and be like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right, that is a good offer. And ultimately, as long as my bottom line is X, I'm good with it. Make sure you're answering any questions they have about the price and the terms. There's so many things that I still struggle with this, where I just gloss over things. They're like, wait, what is that? What's earnest money? And it's like, oh yeah, I haven't talked to you about earnest money. And you bought a home 15 years ago and you don't remember what earnest money is. To us in real estate, earnest money is like, well, obviously I know what that is, but just remember, we're the experts, they're not, and just ask them to tell them ahead of time, hey, please stop me if I'm going too fast. Okay, let's say, so now we're at the point where you've got your offer accepted. Follow a checklist, so important. We've got checklists. If you would like this, let us know. The checklist starts with, okay, we have mutual acceptance. Send the contract out to everyone. The lender, the other broker, hugely important, your firm and the other firm. For those who don't know, on the Form 21, it says delivery. For something to be constituted as delivery, it needs to be sent to both the other broker, the other firm, and your firm. That's what constitutes delivery. So just sending it to the other broker does not count. And you want to send it to title and escrow too. But make sure you're sending it to everybody, because if you're not, if title and escrow don't get it and everybody forgets to send title and escrow, and then you get past the inspection, the appraisal, and then it's like a week from closing, and title's like, we didn't even know you were pending. So it's crazy, but I've heard it happen. It's like, how did people forget to do that? That's why it's important to have a checklist. Hire a transaction coordinator is obviously totally optional. I actually encourage you not to hire a transaction coordinator if you don't have a bunch of deals going on, because it's a good experience. It's good to every once in a while refresh yourself on how to do the back end. But if you're busy and your transactions are taken away from prospecting, we all know this, but real estate is, 60, 90 days out. So if you're busy in January, and you're not prospecting, planting seeds now, you're gonna be really slow in March and April. So if you're at the point where you got 3 deals going on in January, you should really consider hiring a transaction coordinator, because then you can still focus your mornings or your afternoons or whatever time you've time blocked on prospecting, because you have to always be prospecting, or else you're going to have that up and down. You're going to look like Bitcoin, up and down all the time. Communicate with your clients often during this phase. This is something that your transaction coordinator will do. Also, the transaction coordinator would send out your contract and everything for you as well. But if you're not hiring a transaction coordinator, be communicating. Again, we all know as real estate agents, it's really busy for the first week because you're going through the inspection. There's a whole round of negotiation. Then there's like a 2-week gap after the inspection before the appraisal's in, where your seller's like, oh my God, what's happening? Is this going to happen? And you're like, oh, well, we're just waiting for the appraisal. Tell them that, and then remind them that, remind them every few days, like, hey, just wanted to let you know, we're still waiting on the appraisal. Let me know how, if anything, let me know if you have any questions, but right now it's just a quiet time. There's not too much going on. But tell them that no news. Don't just say no news is good news. Tell them that there's no news. Daily communication is the norm. That's a big ask, but yeah, ideally, if you communicate daily, that'll really, really impress them. So after the sale, follow-up is so important. So many of the great real estate coaches out there, this is like their bread and butter. They tell you, don't buy Zillow leads, don't buy realtor leads, your goal should be your past clients and your sphere of influence. And so really think about, how much money did I just make on that deal? Let's say it's a $400,000 transaction and I just made a 2.5% commission. That's 10 grand. Even after my fees to the brokerage, I'm walking away with a lot of money. Don't just get them a card. This is my opinion. It's up to you. Get them something that's going to impress them. Gift cards totally work and people love gift cards. I like to, I'm a bad gift giver and I will give gift cards if I can't think of something, but listen while you're showing homes. And if someone says something like, oh, I love those Ring doorbells, man, a Ring doorbell is like such an epic gift because it's something that most people won't buy for themselves. because it's like, it's hard to justify spending $200 on a doorbell. It's like, oh, who cares? But if you get him that, it's like, wow, he listened to me. I mean, that's the type of stuff that'll blow people away. I got somebody a Roomba last month, and he was like blown away that I remembered that he said how much he wants a Roomba, even though it was like $300. It wasn't that much money, but to him, it was like, it was an incredible gift, $300, right? And then really key, ask for feedback. We have an app with Realty One Group that'll do this for you automatically. But if they haven't written a review for you, text them and say, hey, how are things going? Start with that. Don't just say, hey, write a review. And they'll say, oh, it's going great. We love the home. And say, that's so amazing. I'm so happy. If you need anything, let me know. Hey, by the way, it would really help out me and my business if you don't mind just writing a testimonial just about your experience with me. It would really make a big difference. It's way more awkward for you than it is for them. They're like, oh yeah, totally, I'd be happy to do that. They just got your email and they were busy and they're moving and they forgot to do it most of the time. So really, really ask them to do that. Okay, 7-step for after sale follow-up, the 7 steps of after sale follow-up. Reminders to call and text and check in. This is, find out what works for you. You don't want to be spammy, but just remember your correspondence with people. Try and be empathetic. Try and think how do I feel when I get whatever it is, when I bought a car, what is spammy from the car salesman to do? Call me every month. Yeah, that's spammy. But if they send me a Christmas card, that's nice. I appreciate that, right? So think about like how do you want your business to be? There's not one right answer or wrong answer here, but check in with them and don't just send them a Christmas card. Find at least talk to them once a quarter, or at least send them a text once a quarter, just saying, hey, how are things going? Nowadays people are we're so remote, especially with COVID, and it's just really rare. If you look through your phone, your messages, and you look at the last time somebody who wasn't family, and maybe even include family, just texted you and said, hey, how are you doing? I bet you're going to scroll a long way. No one does that. And and again, I never text someone or call someone and say, hey, are you thinking about selling? Never. Seriously, I don't think I've ever done that once. It's genuine. I'm honestly asking how they're doing. And in return, I get, great conversation most of the time. And they ask me how I'm doing. And maybe at the end of it, if the conversation is going well and they've asked me about my job, I say, hey, do you know anybody else do you know anybody who has any questions about real estate? Maybe, but don't do it unless it feels right. These are some other ideas: monthly newsletters, market updates. Market updates are huge if you just help someone buy a home. It's like everybody likes to watch their 401k go up and their Roth IRA and their stocks or anything like that. Well, the home is like that too, and their home's likely going up in value. So sending them market updates like, hey, just want to let you know, this is what the market's looking like in your neighborhood. And there are programs that help you do this, by the way, using Sync. Sync can do this. You can set them up on a drip campaign that does this. And then there's another program called HomeBot that sends a really sweet report that does this. So really consider doing that. Try and write down their anniversaries and birthdays. That's a great anniversaries, meaning, hey, congratulations, 1 year ago you bought the home. It's just an excuse to contact them. And they're like, oh my God, I forgot. You're right. We did buy the home a year ago. And birthdays, people appreciate that. Don't just write on Facebook. You're going to blend in with the 100 other people who wrote happy birthday. And that's it, guys. So we got one more meeting next week, and then we'll start it over after a week break. But as always, we end RevUp with just repeating the one habit. This is just something I encourage you to consider implementing into your business days, and that's making 3 calls, adding 3 people to your database, and sending out 6 handwritten notes every single working day. If you're only working 3 days a week, that's fine. But and if this doesn't connect with you, if you're someone who doesn't want to send 6 handwritten notes, make it work for you. Maybe it's 6 texts, maybe it's something else, but this is an idea of a one habit that and make it your own and stick to it every single day, so that even on the days that you're not, you fell short on everything else, you can say, okay, well, I'm at least going to do this every single day, because going through these actions are what eventually lead to results. So that is all. Ashley, thanks for joining.